real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I got to take a quick moment before I introduce our amazing guest today to say thank you to all of our amazing fans. You guys are the best fans on planet Earth. Our audience is absolutely incredible, and I want to encourage you guys to keep clicking those subscribe and follow buttons and leave us a review, rate the show, tell us what you love, click that 5-star review on all of the platforms, right? You can't use the 4-star, the 3-star, the 2-star, the 1-star. Those don't work. We only like the 5-star ones here. But in all seriousness, thanks so much for all of your support as we approach our big milestone of episode 100, right? But all that to be said, folks, today is an incredible show. I've got an absolutely dynamic man in the Hit Lab with me today, folks. Check this out. This is probably, if not the most incredible story we've had in here, or it's one of them, if it's not the most incredible story that we've had in here told on the Hitstreak, and I'm so excited to share that with you folks today. Folks, check it out. This is a serial entrepreneur and former attorney. He's a coach, he's a speaker, and he's the founder of The Program. Folks, help me welcome Nick Alfano. What's happening, baby?
Hey, what's up, brother? I don't know if I could match that energy, number one, but I love what you're doing here. It's almost been too long since we've talked about this episode, so I'm extremely excited to film it. And yeah, man, it's hanging out at your house for a couple days and just getting to know you. Finally meet the missus, which was cool. Walking up on you, training your son, which is, oh, by the way, if you haven't seen this guy's son, it's the most jacked 13-year-old on the planet Earth, which has got to be a huge testament to whatever you're doing with him. But the way you guys finished the workout was powerful. I thought that was the biggest thing for me, just walking up on that and just the words that were spoken, and it was you've done some pretty good stuff with what you've instilled in him at a young age, so that was awesome.
Well, I appreciate that, but we have a lot of those things in common, I would say, right?
I think so.
Well, I got to get right into something really, really important because, like, dude, like you had 2 7-figure streams of passive income. Passive income is the best type of income, but you left those 2 things behind to start the program, and I just got to ask you why.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit that went into it. There was a very pivotal moment, which I'm sure we'll get to, which I call my man in the mirror moment. But it's essentially called The Program because it's exactly that. Like, I was very good at what I call checking the boxes, and so I was essentially the guy that objectively successful. It looks like he had it all, had the hot wife and the kids and the muscles and the tattoos and the things. Again, 7 figures passive. But I woke up one day and realized I was running somebody else's program. Like, I was literally letting the world define success for me. And I was miserable. Like, I wasn't broke, but very broken. And I just said, you know what? Something's got to change. I spent about 5 years on my own journey, and I burnt everything to the ground that didn't serve me from a place of integrity, didn't align with my core values, and really just started helping dudes be better dudes. I think you've said this before a couple times. I mean, it always hits hard is the person you're most qualified to help is the person that you used to be. And so it was like, how do I go and help grown men sidestep some of these landmines that I, lived on and blew up. And so it's essentially what I've been doing is just helping guys. And for what it's worth, they write their own programs. I just walk alongside of them and show them what's possible. So.
Yeah, man, that's a thing from brand builders. A foundational piece for me working with brand builders is the person that you're most uniquely positioned to help is the person that you used to be. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. And, it's and there's so many ways to peel that onion to get below the surface, right? But I actually have visited one of your events. I've experienced it in person. I was fortunate enough to be a featured speaker at one of the most recent ones. And dude, I was blown away at the event. It was absolutely phenomenal. And these events are like, some people say, man, those events are a dime a dozen. Some of them are. Oh. Some of them are not. That's for you to figure out which ones are best for you, right? And dude, it was really powerful, I got to say.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming out. It was a crazy story for your listeners. We'll get in and out of this one. Was literally met this guy's representative at a Connect Nashville event, like a networking event, and started just having a conversation around this event. He was like, "Oh, I have a guy. You have to meet him. You guys sound extremely alike, and you probably know some of the same people running similar circles." I was like, "Cool. Can he come speak at an event in 72 hours? You know, I just want to add value, and to my people, you know, by bringing them somebody else besides me all the time." He's like, "Probably not 72 hours." I was like, "Well, if it makes sense, let me know." And then, you know, lo and behold, you and I start chopping it up over text, and then we made it happen. So I just want to honor you for 72 hours pulling that rabbit out of your hat.
Well, dude, it was easy because once I got there and I found out the state that these guys were in and that they were very receptive to everything that I had to say. And they were dialed in. It was fantastic, and it's, you know, it's really easy to kind of tell your story and just be honest with people, and that's when your story is the best, is when you're just honest, right?
100%.
So, well, your story is incredible, and you know, there's so many levels to it, and like what you told me the other day at the house about, you know, your childhood, like, bro, it's incredibly powerful. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about that a little bit in depth, man. Let's share.
Yeah, even just thinking about it's rough sometimes. So, you go all the way back. You want to go all the way back?
Well, I mean, like your childhood was different.
Yeah.
That's the difference. The only word I know to say, because it made you who you are today. So it wasn't tragic,
sure,
but it was different.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to spend too much time on it, but like, I think it's very important for people to understand, because, you know, you said you were, you were broke, but you weren't broke, but you were broken.
Yeah.
Well, you were broken, those from back then, right? All those things that you changed about yourself were just, they were the ripple of your childhood.
Yeah.
You know,
which I think is true for most men, if not, you know, most everybody.
Right.
And that's not to give people an out and hold that victim mentality of like, oh, childhood trauma made me. I think once you're aware of the childhood trauma and you choose to whether to process it or not, then it's kind of on you. But yeah, born and raised Biloxi, Mississippi. So I'm definitely back home. I've only been back in Nashville or in the South for 2 years, but we are not leaving. And when I was 8 years old, my father had went ahead to Southern California to kind of set up shop. His you know, he was some sort of foreman or something for like a fiber optic company when they were still running fiber, which they might not do anymore. All that to say, he went out a year ahead of us, and his definition of set up shop was he found a younger, hotter version of my mom.
Gotcha.
So we moved out summer of '89. We landed in Cali in July, divorced by October. Like, it was just a done deal. Having grown up in the South, and I don't know if this is still true, but it is far more common to put hands on your kids.
Right.
So growing up, we were abused pretty heavily. And I'm not talking about like a swat on the butt for doing something wrong. Like, we were beat pretty bad. And I say we, there was three of us. I'm in the middle. We're all 1 year apart. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And the interesting thing about moving to Cali with that, you know, pattern of behavior, if you will, inside of our household was when you show up to school, you know, it's Cali, it's blue, it's liberal, and it's no offense to the teachers. They're mandated, you know, legally to run that up the flagpole.
Yeah.
And so I was showing up to school with a lot of marks and, you know, just very apparent that I was being physically abused. And so the song and dance kind of went like this. Teacher goes to tell principal tells authorities if it's that bad. We have some like conference in the principal's office. My mom, which is where I get my gift of gab, would talk her way out of it. And I would go home and get beat even worse, because the theory was Nick's tattling, I guess, if that's a thing. And so like it came a point where I'm like pleading with my teachers, please stop this cycle. Like, I'm not going to quit getting beat because that's who she is. But you can stop reporting it. That would be awesome. And also too, what was sad looking back was I was actually very convinced that I deserved it, because that's all you know. When you're conditioned at a young age, get out of line, get handled. And I mean, like, you know, whatever's within arm's length becomes a physical weapon. And so, yeah, so that went on for quite a while. And then, you know, hit 13, 14 years old, started working out a little bit, got a little bass in my voice and my first chest hair, and I was like, enough, you know. I had enough, and mom comes to put hands on me. We're living in a little 2-bedroom apartment in Moreno Valley, California, and I had exactly that word. I had enough, and in defending myself, I put her through a sliding glass door, and the next day she walked away from all of her babies. And so She left a note, and I don't remember the details per se, but it was something to the effect of like, rent's paid for another month. We were just renting a little baby apartment month to month, I'm sure. And then there's some food in the cupboard, like figure it out, and she pretty much said that I showed her, Nicholas, my full name, showed me that I could no longer discipline you guys. And so she just left us, and like, not only did she walk, but my siblings were convinced that obviously I was the root cause of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that still comes up from time to time. But realistically, I was homeless from 14 on. And, I do want to clear this up for the audience. It wasn't all like the homeless you might be picturing in your head. I was a bit of a professional couch surfer. There were nights on park benches. There was nights on curbs. But essentially, I just lived out of a backpack. Like if you find any footage of me, and I'm older now, so I don't know if they had camera phones back then, but like yearbook, you name it, I have a backpack everywhere I went. I've actually done some deep work with some psychiatrists who call it my Linus blanket. If you remember that character, Linus.
That's right.
The blankie, right? And so I just kept my toiletries on me. It was deodorant, cologne. It was like overnight bag. I don't know where I'm going to land, but this is my essentials. And so the next 3 or 4 years, I just couch surfed. And the craziest thing about that, to me, this is why there's a pivotal moment for my addiction, if you will, was I was voted my senior year best dressed and most likely to succeed.
Wow.
Right? My senior year. And I'm homeless at the time. And so to me, looking back and learning, what I was really doing was putting on this crazy facade, this crazy like just BS version of me so no one would look too close because, kids are cruel. And at that age, you don't want to be the homeless kid.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean? Like high school, you definitely ain't getting no girls. You ain't getting no love. And so I was so obsessed with people not knowing how bad it was that I overcompensated. Like,
okay.
So I got emancipated, which is a big deal when you divorce your parents. So that's what kind of pushed me to the legal system and learning how that worked. I mainly did it to get money for college. But essentially that allowed me to get a job younger than most. And any cash I had from side hustles and working went to like, get the Jordans, get the watch, get the outfit. Like I was just, don't look too close. I'm flashy. I got it all figured out. I got the money, and it couldn't have been further. It was like my first big lie,
Gotcha.
So
is it safe to say, like the one thing I know about you is like the having earning potential is a skill that can be developed, and you had to develop a lot earlier than others. So even though that was extremely hard and difficult, like those, because pressure creates opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And you took an opportunity that most people would have crushed most people, and you turned it into, you started developing a skill set on how to figure out how to earn money, something that you're really good at today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Was that fair?
Yeah, I've actually never had someone unpack it like that. That's an interesting take. But yeah, because I guess backs against the wall, that's ultimate pressure is like, if you don't make money, you don't eat, you don't this, you don't that. You definitely can't hang out with everybody who gets to just enjoy going to the school dance or going to the football game and putting gas in their car or having a car. My first car I lived out of, it was $250,
Wow.
And but it was my baby. I love that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It smoked like crazy. It was like a blown motor eventually, and but it was mine.
That's right. That's right. It was home. It was everything.
It was crazy.
I'm a pressure guy. Like, I don't like being comfortable. So like, I used to think I was a fear guy, and Kevin Hart says it in a documentary about himself, and The Rock says it too. The Rock says, I remember when I had $7 only in my wallet. Kevin Hart says, I can remember being so broke that I wake up every day and I remind myself what that felt, and then I run like hell from it, right? So for me, I'm a pressure guy. I'm always putting pressure on myself. I do it every day to get going. You know what I mean? I'm putting pressure on myself to unpack or accomplish the next thing, or to give my kids and family more time, or to build a stronger faith. It's all. I'm a pressure dude. Is that what makes you tick? Because as an athlete, pressure was it for me. It was the competitive nature for me. What is it that gets you going every day?
Yeah, I think there's a version of that. I don't know that I've quite honed it as well as I think I've seen you do, because one pattern in my life was a bit of self-sabotage around the word pressure, right? And so it's like, rather than waking up and manufacturing a situation of pressure to thrive in, I would almost crush and then let things get bad to where it was back against the wall, because that's where I perform best. Right? And so I think when you learn and you hone that skill and you manufacture pressure, so you can, like, why dig a hole? Like, I'm the king of like, crush everything and then dig the deepest hole because I love climbing out of it, and just climb a little higher this time and then dig another hole. Like, I think to it's whether or not you're using it as a subconscious like self-sabotage, or you actually thriving in it,
And that's literally what you do for others now is you help them find their way out of the hole, right? You help them dig their way out of that hole. Yeah. So that's really cool. Isn't that neat? So again, going back to that statement, you're most uniquely positioned to help the person that you once were. Yeah. Like that's literally what you're doing. And I would be safe to say, have you trained anybody whose rock bottom is deeper than yours? Because yours you might have the deepest one I've heard, man.
You know what's crazy? We didn't start off like this, but we've helped quite a few people through some like real addictions. Like my addiction was affirmation. I've never done any real hard drugs. I've been drunk 5 times. The senior prom was last time I was drunk. And so I was really proud of not having addiction. So we've definitely by default, when we really get to the root of some of these guys' trauma, we work strictly with males.
Well, there's other people that were, in a situation like yours where their parents were gone and they were homeless as a teenager, but yours is harder because normally those people, it happened because of a death or an untimely death or a tragedy. Yours was somebody made a choice. And you weren't the choice the thing that they chose, right? Like to me, that seemed like that would hurt worse than even losing them, like in their physical nature, because like you lost.
Yeah, she's out there somewhere and she chose not to be a mom.
Have you spoken to her since?
It's an interesting relationship. When I started having my babies, she wanted to come back around. She wanted to play grandma, and I made a promise to my wife that I will not ruin her name because I'm confident she'll do that on her own.
Sure.
And it was literally a matter of time, and I mean like very few instances around my babies, her grandchildren. So I let her back in for that. I was like, okay, and this is something I love for people to understand too. For everything that she did, it took me a long time to process that and to forgive her.
Sure.
And when you tell someone you forgive them, especially this particular individual, it's not what she wants to hear. She still is like, she's got a story around why she did what she did, et cetera.
Yeah, but you didn't have to forgive her at all. Like
I did it for me.
That was a choice. That was
for me.
That was a choice, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, for my own capacity.
There's no reason for you to carry that. You got to let it go, right? And that's hard. That's extremely hard to do.
You know who helped me with that? And I don't remember the exact person, but I'll give you the 2 tools that they gave me for that. And to me, it's mandatory for my guys. Because if you're holding on to something that hard, it's very hard to bring something new into your life. And I noticed like I was having a hard time processing certain things and getting to the next level in certain areas of my life. And it was like, you have to let this go. You have to. And I'm like, I'm not forgiving her. Are you kidding me? Like she walked out on her baby. She's done to me. She doesn't exist. And then when someone explained to me, there's these 2 concepts. One is deathbed logic.
Okay.
If you would forgive him on your deathbed, forgive him now. And that's perfect because why? You're absolutely right. I'll forgive her on my deathbed. Well, I don't need to hold on to anything. But then how does it serve me to hold on to that until that moment?
Amen.
And the other one that was powerful for me was, it's a bit of an out for her, but it still makes sense. She was only working with the tools that she had in her tool belt. And her level of consciousness at that time said, you put hands on kids when they get out of line. Why? Because dad put hands on her when she got out of line. Why? Because dad before that, right? And so this is the generational curse that's so hard to break. You know how long I said out loud, I'll never be like my mother?
Sure.
I screamed that from the mountaintops. But I was a baby having babies. I had kids at 20 years old. And so forever, and my girls didn't really get it, but my boy sure got it. You know what I mean? And so it was like, and I'm screaming, I don't want to be anything like my mom, but here I am putting hands on my son, on little man.
Sure.
And like, when you try to fight your subconscious like map with your conscious, affirmation or just screaming from the rooftop, it hardly works. The math's not there. And so I do a lot of work to get through that.
You have to work on your subconscious because that's why they call it your subconscious. It's below consciousness, so you really don't even know it's there. So when you're actually like learning about that, that's a great way to get to know yourself. Yeah. It's a great way to accept the things that you do want to improve on. It's a great way to accept the things that you feel great about and that you're confident in. It's just, your confidence in yourself, your confidence in what you can do and all those things. It's such an important, the difference in, like we say all the time, champions aren't won by, or championships are not won by accident, right? It's on purpose. There was a lot of intent there and a lot of focus. So, learning to feel like confidence is not accident. Confidence is 100%. It's a skill that can be developed, and it's done through your learning about yourself through subconscious.
Subconscious runs 95% of your life.
That's right.
It's a fact. Like look it up to your blue in the face, and that's why we call it the program, because all these guys. One of my big like gripes with all these masterminds out there is they're like affirmations are. Can I cuss on your podcast?
You may.
Affirmations are dog shit. Like period. It's very difficult to put a Post-it on your mirror or scream an I am statement and then just crush everything. Can it happen? Yes, over time, but there's a lot more work to be done because again, you're trying to like prefrontal cortex, 5% of your brain, conscious mind. everything else that's being ran is everything you do. The average human makes 30,000 decisions in a day. 30,000, right? And so like you're not even aware of it. We're making decisions right now, left and right. And so the program is basically like, I'm a big cognitive behavioral coach. Like I'm obsessed with remapping the subconscious mind because that's the only way to win. When you try to fight that every day, it's a losing battle. And then you start to, you end up in this, they call it a self-fulfilling prophecy or the Pygmalion effect. It's essentially this loop that you create with your, belief, action, result. We've talked about this a couple of times on other Zoom calls, I think. But you end up like, for example, I believe I'm not good at job interviews, right? That's my belief. So the action is I show up to the job interview, maybe a little disheveled. Maybe I bring a crap resume I haven't updated in a while, or it's on some crinkled paper.
Right.
I just show up in that way. So what is the result? I don't get the job. Now, the scariest part is the next step. The next step that makes it a loop is it reaffirms the fact that I told myself I'm not good at job interviews. I go home and I say, see, I knew I'm not good at job interviews. I didn't get the job. And so that self-perpetuating, right, self-fulfilling prophecy just keeps people stuck. Because here's what I know about human beings that's frightening. Human beings are the only organism on the planet Earth that would rather be right than actually win. Like confirmation bias.
Facts.
100%.
Facts.
It's the concept of the devil I know is far less frightening than the devil I don't. And like this is why women stay in like a battered women syndrome, right? Like they know the launch sequence for husband. They push the launch sequence. They get smacked. And that is a predictable outcome, predictable behavior. And they would rather stay in that loop, even though it doesn't serve them because it's comfortable and it's predictable. Yeah. Rather than step outside and say, what does a win look like? What does a dude look like that doesn't put hands on me?
That's right.
Is that possible for me? No, they've convinced themselves this is how it goes. Yeah. It's frightening.
For me, that's what the program is it's literally just, it's remapping the subconscious mind. It's I study a lot of human behavior itself because like that's how I figure out how to make myself better, right? I understand why I'm the way that I am or why I was the way I was. And when you start to study those things, you really learn, and you start to see a lot of common threads amongst other people and everything else. It's just that's when I think of the program, that's what I think about. It's just it's reprogramming, all these years of habits. And in studying that, I found out that they say, and there's science to prove this, that 94, 95% of your decisions are made based on your first 7 years of your life because you're in a hypnotic state, but while your brain's being developed, right?
So you have certain frequencies that you vibrate and emanate at, and that allow you to take in information. And you're most susceptible to creating your program in the first 7 years. And obviously, it's who's in control of their life the first 7 years? Nobody.
That's right.
And it's benevolent in nature. Your parents don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
But then school starts to come in, maybe a coach, another influence, and the reason it's a 7 years, every 7 years the body produces a new set of cells. So I'm 42. I just turned 42 a couple of days ago, actually. I've had 6 iterations of a cut and paste of a program that I don't know if that serves me.
Wow, that's really powerful, dude.
And unless I do the work, right, I'm over here, I'm running somebody else's program when I should be writing my own. It's my life.
Let's go.
And so, yeah, I don't know if we want to jump back to my story, but I just had a moment right there. The part of my subconscious story that was being written unbeknownst to me with my mom and the way I was treated, I lost respect for women, on a crazy degree. And when I think we talked about this, but I've been with my wife 24 years. I cheated on her for 17.
Right.
17 of those years.
The fact that you even will say that publicly is everything about the type of person that you are. That's how you own it, right? That's how you own it. That's how you can actually initiate the change that you got to accept, right?
You know who gets the credit for my ability to say that out loud? She does. Because we did the work, and now she is in a place of such comfortability, and she understands the value of our story and how much it grants permission and how many couples we've personally walked through on infidelity.
What's her name?
Her name's Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Love of my life.
Superhero.
Yeah.
Just doesn't wear a cape, does she?
We've known each other since 6th grade.
That's fantastic.
Started dating in high school.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting right back into your story. That's good. Go ahead.
Well, so the crazy thing about my relationship with my mom or lack thereof was somewhere it started to program in my subconscious mind, the way I saw her treat my dad. And then, I know my dad was in the wrong, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff I didn't get into, which kind of almost, again, not justifies my father's behavior, but let's put it this way. I'm still on very good terms with him, and my mom and I don't talk ever.
Gotcha.
Right? So all that to say, I lost my virginity to my wife, right? And so that was one of my many stories. Like, how do I know she's the one? Let me go sow my wild oats, if that's still a saying, right? So I had all these stories, and I stepped out on her like left and right. But the crazy thing about it, the more we unpacked it, and we've done a tremendous amount of work. Obviously, we're like beyond best friends. Those that know us, we do everything together.
That's right.
It became apparent that it was this addiction I had to affirmation. Like, I wasn't stepping out for the actual sex part of it. All I wanted was someone to tell me I was awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I was seeking. And I wasn't getting it inside my four walls. And so the story I was telling myself was, well, if I'm not getting it here, when I step out of here, I'm the man.
Right.
Make tons of money, got the muscles, tattoos, the 200K cars. I got all these dudes that work for me that think I'm the man. Girls love me. Like, I'm going to live out here. I don't want to be home.
Sure.
And that's what I see a lot in the men that we help, is there's some form of sedation where they've created this life that they're not happy with, right? And rather than confront that, right, they just want to go out and sedate. And sedation could be alcohol, could be porn, could be another girl. Some people just sedate, they're workaholics.
Yeah.
I got guys that work 16-hour days because they don't want to step through those four walls and face with the life that they've created.
Yep, been there.
Yeah, and so that's their particular form of sedation. And it's crazy because, like, when I was, this was 5 years ago, this is what started this whole journey. This is what made me actually burn down the two, the 7-figure incomes, by the way, were literally my law firm. I became a lawyer because I thought that was a cool thing to do. I don't know what I was thinking.
You watched My Cousin Vinny. That's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you got a crazy Italian accent and you can make it funny, then I'm all in. What it really was it was actually my childhood dream was to do law. And I had this like 5-year hiatus of raising babies. And I was like, let me go back. I did like a night school. It took 4 years because of night school. It's typically 3. The crazy thing is you sit for the same bar. It don't matter where you go to law school. So I went to this unaccredited program, and I sat next to Harvard and Stanford when I took the bars. 2,200 kids in a room in Ontario, California.
Wow.
And we all had the same books and took the same test,
Yeah. Did you pass it your first time?
I did not. It took me 2 tries. It's one of the only tests in my life that I failed.
Dude, it took me 3 times just to get an insurance license.
You know what was crazy about it? What it forced me to do, though, and it was just the hustler in me, is I started, I refused to, it was maybe my ego at the time, and I was building a business. I built my debt collection company while I was in law school. And so part of me was making more money than most lawyers. So I was kind of like, it was my plan B. It was like, let me get this solid thing. My wife will be proud. Again, another box to check. Nick's a lawyer.
We agree on Plan B, on our views on that.
Yeah. Oh, now I do. Yeah, exactly. Burn the boats. If you want to take the island, you better burn it all. Plan B distracts from Plan A.
That's right.
And it was the biggest distraction. I went and opened a full law because, I'm going to go big, right? And so I opened my own law firm. I got paralegals and all these things. I'm like, I hated it. I hated every moment of it. Like, I didn't want to be a lawyer. Most of the law that I did was to further my own entrepreneur ventures,
That's right.
So it was a tool in the tool belt, but it was never my calling per se. I don't know where I was going with this other than checking every box under the sun.
That's right.
But yeah, man, like when I decided to burn everything down is 4.5 years ago. It'll be 5 years in December. So 4.5 years ago, I was separated from the wife for about a year.
Okay.
And this was an intentional separation. The theme to this one was like, there was this story out there that Nick can't be alone.
Okay.
And part of it comes from my crazy childhood, and let's see if Nick can be alone.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so like I moved to an apartment about 3 cities away from my wife and babies. It still showed up, still coaching kids in soccer, still showing up for every spelling bee and everything you could think of. Still supporting obviously financially, but I was just sleeping with like Instagram models, like just being the evidence was I can't be alone. I still needed people at my house all the time.
That's right.
And so I had literally just had sex with like a random girl, and I looked in the mirror and just lost it.
Gotcha.
Like broke. I call this my man in the mirror moment. Like I literally just was like, 7 figures passive. Everyone thinks you're the man. You got all these cool things. Your kids are straight A's. You got this gorgeous wife who you're trying to figure it out with. Like you've checked every box that, like, let's call it Instagram, that like social media says is successful. Like you're successful, but you hate yourself. Like the talk track in my head was like nothing but just destroying myself. And I'm like, who am I at my core? You know what I mean?
That's the man in the mirror moment is such a gift. I like I tell my kids, and I say this a lot in talks, that like 2 of the greatest things that you can get in life are an opportunity and a choice. So when you have that man in the mirror moment, there's an opportunity there where you finally, God gave you a gift that you recognize something that you want to change in yourself, and then you have a choice to make once you come to that moment, right? and obviously you made the right decision. Like I'd love to ask your wife one day, because my story is nothing. It's not a lot like yours. However, my wife and I I was not great to her, and did a lot of things. I was unfaithful and did a lot of things when we were even right before our son was born and everything. It was just something that like why she stayed with me. Her family didn't really care for me much. Her friends didn't much, and I agree with them. I didn't like them much back then.
That version of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to this day, I guess my wife just saw something in me that I was too blind to see in myself for a long time. Was that the case for you?
Man, that is my 100% theory on women and one of the gifts that they have. I believe when you are face to face with your wife across the aisle, when you take vows, right? I don't think she's marrying the dude across from her. I think she's marrying a version of you that you don't even know is possible. And it's twofold though, because to me, and I try to tell my dudes this that are struggling with their wives, is like, that's when the clock starts. Like you don't have to, maybe you don't have to get all the way to that version, but you better make progress, and you better make consistent progress, because the minute you give up on the version that they know is possible for you, they start to wonder, is this the one? Was this the right choice? You know what I mean?
Dang, dude, that might be one of the most powerful things I've ever heard you say.
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I 100% think like and that's when you know they're the one, because they stick through you. Like to your point, why did she stay? Like, why on earth did my wife, tolerate my behavior? But she, and she would argue to her friends. To your point, the family for the most part liked me, and they knew my story, and they kind of helped me through some of that. So like, obviously maybe they gave me an out, for some of my behavior, but she definitely had that circle of friends that's like, what are you doing with this guy? Once a cheater, always a cheater. And she's like, you don't get it. You don't know who he is at his core. You don't know who I see when no one's around. Like he's going to get through this, et cetera. And so,
and let me say, her family's always been amazing to me. I don't want to say, I just,
Yeah.
And like, and then she told me later, like, oh yeah, my friends were saying this and that. And again, rightfully so. Yeah. They were protecting.
Those are good friends.
Absolutely. And now I love them. I'm so grateful that we have them in our life, So, all right, back to you.
No, yeah. So, I don't even know where I was.
So you had faithful to your wife, not faithful to your wife, 17 out of 24 years.
I had this man in the mirror moment.
Yep, split, and you had the man in the mirror moment, and then that's where change happened, right?
Yeah. So what the craziest thing was, I had a gentleman. It was like a fellow soccer dad, and he kind of saw we were going through it. He saw this whole 1 year separation. Was like, hey, I know you're going through it. I'm watching you like disintegrate right in front of me. Mentally, emotionally. I'm gonna go to this event in San Diego, California. It's pretty aggressive. It's not really up my alley, but like I think it's perfect for you. And it was Garrett J. White, Warrior Con 3.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, and one man said one sentence from one stage that changed my life forever. And I say this sentence on every podcast, but I'll say it to the day I die, because this is my sentence that changed me. He said this. He said, in a world full of liars, the truth is a declaration of war. And at the time, I'm sitting in this audience. There's maybe 2,200 other people there. They gave us these little journals, and I'm an attorney still. And so I actually drafted, during this 3-day event, I drafted what I call the truth agreement. And I literally have not told a lie in 4.5 years. Like, I refuse to. I don't care how bad it makes me look. I don't care what people think of me.
It's the freest you'll ever be.
It's the craziest feeling, man. But I will say this, the first 6 months or so, and maybe longer, the hardest thing I ever did.
Sure.
I lost everybody. No one wants to be around a guy that's living in his truth, because it forces them to hold up a mirror and start to wrestle with their truth.
Yeah, and the habits of all those years prior of just faking it till you made it. Yeah. You know what I mean? To save face in front of your peers and friends. And
we'll think of the rule of 5. What does the rule of 5 say? Like, you'll become, you're most likely to become the average of the 5 people you associate with most. That's right. So who do you think my 5 was? Like, everyone was stepping out on their wives, Yeah. And so they were like, I was like a leper. Like, keep this guy way away from us. He's on this like truth kick. And a lot of it was negative, like, oh, high and mighty. Nick thinks he's, was he born again? Who is this guy? Like, it was just every comment you could think of to keep me at arm's length, which was frustrating for my wife, because she didn't do anything wrong, and she lost all those wives as friends. Because it was like we were just like excommunicated, And obviously, I never would approach their wife and be like, hey, you should check your boy. It's not my place.
That's right.
But at the same time, again, when you're living in the way that I was, no one wanted, unless you're ready to deal with your stuff, like, stay away from Nick, because I'm not going to force you to, but the way I'm showing up is going to force you to have to show up a little different if we're going to be friends. You know what I mean? So it was crazy. It's one of those things where, like, I lost everything I thought I wanted only to gain everything I needed. You know what I mean? And so, like, it was
my man.
It's been a crazy journey. It's been to burn. Like, when I say burn, we didn't have an exit strategy on the law firm because I was it. I was the law firm. I was my bar card, right? We pushed a few cases off, maybe got like a contingency fee or whatever. So I did debt collection, 23 offices nationwide, 700-800 kids working underneath me.
That's big.
Like making money hand over fist. But think Wolf of Wall Street meets Boiler Room meets Glengarry Glen Ross. Like nothing but hardcore closing, say whatever, very gray. And I was like, you know what? There's no integrity in the way we're operating. So I had this come to Jesus meeting. I had all 23 locations come down to Southern California, sit in my conference room, which is my law. It's funny, it's my law office. And I was like, I spent so much money in this law firm. We need to triple purpose it. Like we need to use it for like 25 different things. So I use it as like my makeshift corporate office, my debt collection, et cetera. All that to say, what was interesting, and this tells you the caliber of people in that industry, of the 23 folks that showed up that were all paying me like a consulting fee every month, 8% royalty fee. It was like a franchise model basically. 11 of them stuck with me and I offered them 20 cents on the dollar buyout. This is what I call our bridge to Nashville. This is what funded the Nashville move.
Gotcha.
So 11 of them said, yeah, cool, we get it, we love it, thanks for the opportunity, 20 cents on the dollar, no problem, cash me out. The other, whatever number that is, 20 or whatever, 8, 10, 11, 12, literally put their middle fingers up and said, all right, we're out from underneath Nick's thumb. Like just absolute. And they rolled the dice on like cost benefit analysis. Is Nick going to spend the money to sue us to enforce this agreement, or is he just going to bounce? And I bounced because I don't want to deal with. You
were washing your hands.
Yeah,
part of your life. That's right.
Yeah,
a clean break.
But I was hoping to collect X and then like parlay that into getting out to Nashville and getting out of Cali. But it was just another. But to your point, I was like operating from such a place of like freedom and abundance. I was like, whatever happens is supposed to happen. If I'm supposed to get $7 on this buyout and I got to find more money to get us to Nashville, cool. But I will not operate in a space, or I will not operate in a place that doesn't align with my core values ever again.
You're like a perfect example. I do not like quitters. I do not like quitters. I love finishers, right? But they look and smell really the same. Like you know what I'm saying? So I didn't quit my baseball career. I was finished. You know what I mean? That's why you didn't go sue those guys. Because you were finished.
That's powerful.
Right? It's not quitting. You finished.
I love that. There's a fine line there. You're right. Very fine line.
Absolutely. And then this is kind of where we're getting into the program here, because honestly, when I met you, before I even spoke to you the first time, I received a graphic for your event. And you had 4 F's listed there that were identical and in the exact same order from which I've built everything that we've been studying and working on for quite some time. And it was faith, family, fitness, and finance, right? And everything that we do, we talk about it here all the time, those 4 F's. So like immediately it was like a God thing for me. It was just like, and you had the same name, we're the same age, like it was crazy.
Yeah, we have way too much in common.
And
we live like 7 minutes from each other. So
That's right. So one of the things that when I left your event, there was one word that really stuck out to me, and I actually started really thinking really long and hard about it, because it was in the first quarter, I believe, or is it really early in the year, and so like there was a lot of those New Year's resolutions, and people are still falling off. I think people were still in their first 75 hard for the year,
yeah, sure.
The ones that were still
right
going.
There. Yeah.
And the word was commitment. That was what I walked away from your event knowing, that like I need to focus more on commitment. What does that word mean? How can I use that more as a tool and develop a skill more around commitment to get to the next places that we want to go and to help other people? Right. So, talk to me a little bit about what the program is, because it's events, but it's consulting, it's a lot of things, and it's growing, and you're adding things to it. Right. I know we're working on we're talking about some podcasts and some live streams and all kinds of stuff right here out of the Hit Lab together and whatnot. But like, talk to me about. So you told us why the program started, but like, you guys, there's waterfalls and like, I mean, dude,
it's not beautiful.
No, it's not a beautiful waterfall. All right, I'm gonna let him tell about it. But it's really cool.
Yeah, so like one of the things we're very proud of are these 2.5 day events. And interestingly enough, most people don't know what EV stands for. I've had people guess like extreme value, or maybe it's just short for event, or I can't remember the 3 or 4 things I've heard over the 2 years. But what it really stands for is it's Latin for exposito veritas, which means it's exposing your truth. And when I say that, it kind of sometimes it'll scare dudes from coming, because you have to be like, my job in life is to create conditions to force men to make decisions. And the conditions are about exposing everything that needs to be exposed, so we can get to work.
That's what life does. It exposes. It creates situations where you got to make decisions. That's exactly a mirror image of life, right? So that's fantastic. Okay.
And so, like at these events, I'll preface with this: the main difference or purpose on what we are doing is, I like to call this car and driver. Like, I'm a big car enthusiast my whole life. I have a book that I'm writing called Car and Driver, but all that to say, I believe that everybody is trying to build the ultimate vehicle. And so for the record, I work with male entrepreneurs married with kids. So at least a male entrepreneur just for me to hang out with you. And we work with men specifically because when you see how hard we go and the things we do, like, let's put it this way. I'll get 20 grown men to like snot cry within the first hour of meeting me. And that doesn't happen if I have females in the room. The energy alone, or the fact that they don't feel it's a safe space to be vulnerable because it's so taboo. And so we keep females completely out. I have a couple of admin on my staff, my wife included, and they have to like hide behind what we call the almighty Oz curtain if they are in the room, or just stay away completely. So we do a lot of work to get these guys wide open. Like no peacocking, no ego, no puffing out your chest. They get off the bus and they just get like spit talked by me. Like it's all Navy SEAL based training, and the concept is essentially, I'll give you the whole model. It's beat down, right? Breakthrough, build up, bond, brotherhood. And we take them through this journey over 2.5 days, and we really just expose their truth. And when everybody who comes to the event and leaves has this paradigm shift that allows them to create at a level that's just it's impossible. And if I go back to the car and driver analogy, I apologize. I feel that where most masterminds, if you want to call them that, or these events are slipping up, is they're focused on the vehicle. Like, I want this vehicle that's going to ultimately take me to financial freedom or time freedom. Like, it's their business. Their business is their car. They want the coolest car ever. Maybe they're in startup mode and they're driving like a beat Corolla, but they want the F1 or the Ferrari.
Right.
And so everyone's seeking what I call a to-do list, right? Like, they want to know, how do I do it? How do I build from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8? How do I build this thing out? How do I build the systems? How? But the real answer is always who, not how. And so what we focus on is the driver. So I'll give you a quick analogy. If I was to drop Jeff Bezos into your business tomorrow, what would happen? Would it excel, or would it go backwards?
Oh, it would excel.
Like crazy,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because he's the driver, right? And maybe your car's not a Ferrari or an F1 yet. Anybody's business. Now, conversely, if I throw one of my rookie members into Amazon tomorrow, what happens to Amazon?
Sure.
Crash and burn.
That's right. At least their part of it would, right?
It's new levels, new devils, and these guys aren't even ready to see what it takes to build a 7 or 8 figure empire. Like, they've got bad habits, they've got self-sabotage, their house is on fire, they've got habits that don't serve them, they've got limited beliefs, they live in scarcity. There's so many things in their subconscious mind that it doesn't matter. Let's put it this way. Everything I've ever taught from stage from a strategy or tactical standpoint can be found on YouTube in 2 seconds. I'm sure of it.
That's right.
Because all the answers are out there.
That's right.
Every dude that's ever come to me to fix this problem has every chat GPT. Come on, man. You could build a business in your sleep now.
That's right.
Every answer is out there. So everyone knows what to do, but they're not doing it. And so I think that's the main difference, is we are like 80-20 driver to car. We spend so much time on the businessman, and then we build the business plan. Because if you don't get the dude in order, it's never going to happen. Like, I can hand a 7-figure blueprint to 2,000 entrepreneurs, and statistically, one guy's going to crush.
It's like programming the address in your GPS before you know that the car's going to run. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what you're describing. That's fantastic. You guys' framework is spot on and second to none, dude. It's killer. The all the bits and pieces in the process and how it all works together and builds. The frame, like, I believe that no business is great. Nothing's great without a great process involved. You got to have, if it's a business, you got to have great people working on offering a great product through a great process.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's what Marcus Lemonis says. Anyways, and he's been pretty dang successful.
I'd say so.
Himself. But I'd never heard New Levels, New Devils. That was really powerful. That's the first time I'd ever heard that one. And to your point, like, you probably didn't make that up. And everything that I've ever said, if it is a Nick Hyder original, it's because I got it from Mickey Hyder or Dale Hyder or Wayne Hyder or Richard Ashburn or somebody in my family that I heard it from growing up that mentored and raised me.
I wrestled with that for a long time, man. I actually was working with Garrett White to white label some of his software, and so I started like molding some of my processes to the way he operates so that I could slide right into white label his software. But there was a very long time whereby I felt like I had to like get his blessing to use certain things. And then I start to realize the longer I've been in this game, I've spoken on all these stages and hung out with, you name it, Mylett, Maxwell, all of them. You start to realize that like we're all just products of our environment, and we are bits and pieces of things we've heard along the way or experiences. And the reality is this: same message, different messenger. Like, you and I can step on stage and say the same exact thing, deliver the same exact process, product, the whole nine, And someone's not going to like the way I talk.
That's right.
Maybe I dropped an F-bomb that day. Maybe they don't like the way I'm standing. Maybe the muscles are like, who is this guy? Whatever it is, right? And so I think if you're really just trying to move the mission forward, which to me is like swinging this pendulum of good and evil, like I'm trying to heavily fund the good.
Yeah.
Like our biggest mission statement is impact over income, because I won't even show you my Rolodex. I won't even help you get growth capital or access to tech or scale your business unless you put at least 3% of your top line revenue to something bigger than you.
That's right.
So ours is sex trafficking. That's what we fight. So if you don't have one that you're married to, Habitat for Humanity or autism or whatever, something personal to you, that's fine. You can put 3% to ours.
Have you guys ever worked with Operation Lightshine?
They're local, right? Someone told me about them.
They're local. They're fantastic, and we're going back and forth. I've had a bunch of people tell me I need to bring them in. Their story's great. They've done a lot with Jason Aldean, and all of his camp has done a lot of stuff for them. Rich Redmond mentioned it when he was in here. We talked about that. It's a great little organization. Like, you can make a difference.
I would love to, and that's a story for another day. We had a really bad experience with our current. We actually just separated from our current nonprofit because we were in Belize doing some like sting operations and some other medical care last summer, and we uncovered some things, and it tends to be a theme with some of these nonprofits, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's the same guy who tries to like open a church for all the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's out there.
Yeah, it is, and at least we caught it early enough because we put quite a few dollars in their hands, and
I bet.
And we said, you know what, money's not enough. Let's actually create an experience. So I opened it up for my members, and we went down to Belize, and we did tactical training. We brought doctors and dentists, and we just poured into the people and helped some victims and stuff, and we realized we were able to pull back the curtain to the degree that I definitely would love to be introduced to a new nonprofit for what it's worth.
Well, folks, we're hanging with Nick Alfano, the founder at the program. Online, you can check him out at reprogram.ai and on Instagram at the Nick Alfano. He's talking to us about the 2.5 journey that is the program on their 2.5 day events. So they're getting off the bus. They're sobbing, so walk us through what 2.5 days looks like, because they're not leaving, right? They're sleeping there. Yeah. They get gear. All the guys were in matching hoodies and all that stuff. When I got there, they just got out of the waterfall when I got there, so half their hair was still wet, and they'd put on some dry clothes.
Yeah. So one thing that's another common thread we seem to have is like kind of overboard with like aesthetics and like very like everything has to be perfect.
That's right.
I mean, the music has to fade a certain way. So we intentionally don't put it out on itinerary because I need people to be present and to truly be here now. You can't be looking at the schedule and saying who's the next speaker, what time is lunch. Like, don't worry about it. Just trust the process and be in your experience.
Be in the moment.
Be here now. And so if I give too much away, people don't come. I mean, most of it, obviously, you could check the highlight films, and there's some. I've had people say it looks like a fitness boot camp because a lot of the stuff that makes the highlight reels is the aggressive stuff. But the reality is that's like 20% of the experience. So like for those listening, if you're like fearful of the stuff we're gonna do, maybe it's not for you. But the reality is there's a whole lot more to it. We only put certain things online because we definitely want to pre-frame the experience or pre-qualify anybody or have them have an agenda. So it's and it's unique for everybody. It's what's interesting is we also use it as a deliverable for current members. So members come back and like some of it is very repeat because it's designed to maybe get new members to join. But at the same time, you're not showing up as the same person you were 6 months ago or 3 months ago. And
That's
so
right.
I have so many members. I've had a member that's come to every single one. I'm like, bro, you're hearing a lot of the same stuff. And he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, I could hear the same sentence completely different. So it's interesting to watch these men go on their journey and be a part of that. Just walk alongside of them and show them what's possible.
Every time I read certain books, I get new things out of it every time, because I think what happens is I'm reading Rich Dad Poor Dad for like the millionth time right now. And every time you get something out of it, then that becomes like the focus, what you remember from all of it. Well, then the next time you read it, you get further along, and then boom, another thing pops up, and that's what you read. And I think that's why it's so important to continue to pound those things and keep going back. I mean, there's that. Everybody's got that short movie list that if they're flipping through a live stream TV or something like that, if Shawshank Redemption or Back to the Future something comes on, they're like, I'm leaving it on.
I'm glued. Shawshank, I'm glued. Yeah,
that's right. So that's a great thing, and that just goes to show you, the books that have the greatest impact on my life are the ones that I read the most, just like the Bible, right? So, and that one's been around over and over again, and we're still learning from it. Every time you read it, you get something new. And preachers are preaching on the exact same gospel all these years, and they keep coming up with new ways to translate it and to give whatever it is they were called to say, to apply, because the world was different than it was when they preached that sermon on that scripture 20 years ago. It's a different place now, right? Just literally just prove the point you just made. that you got guys that are getting something out of it each and every single time they go?
I think they're showing up at a new level of consciousness. You know, like you should always be. One of the biggest compliments anyone can ever say to me is like, I don't recognize you. Like, I love when I haven't seen someone in even 3-4 months and like, hey, you're walking different, you're operating different. Like, that's growth. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you put a 10-year-old in high school algebra class, he's not going to get much. But if he kept going to school and worked up to those grades, he became qualified to understand what he was hearing, right? So like, the first time I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was literally at Financial Literacy 101. So I only got what I was capable to comprehend from that book. So the more that I grew, the more I could comprehend from continuing to read it ongoing, right? So that's very powerful with your events. And I'm starting to see a lot of your guys, like the ones that have been around for a long time, they're starting to lead themselves based around the program. It's really cool.
Yeah. We have the model, if you look at the grand scheme of things, is learn it, live it, lead it, and then we have a fourth one called legacy, which we teach guys how to like leverage it into your legacy, which we show them how to actually scale what we teach them and leave a lasting legacy. And so,
well, it's proven in the Bible with Jesus' disciples. The greatest leaders were first the greatest followers. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have one without the other, I don't think. I'm sure there's the exception to every rule. But all the greatest leaders were once a great follower.
I agree. I consider myself a perpetual student. I think the day you think you've got it figured out, and I lead tons of men, but I also still have my mentors and people that I follow. And
that's right.
So
and I'm always learning as well. And then you get to a certain level where all of a sudden you just have to have a filtration system, and just to make sure that you're getting the most out of your time, and that you're not going to not everything's for everybody. And you have to learn from those things. So when you were an infant, I had everything to learn, and I was an infant in my journey. But versus now, I'm a little bit more experienced, and I've got years of work and a body of work now. It's have to be a little bit different. I'm not going to get something out of every single one of them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can get some out of everything, even if it's what not to do. But if you had went to the right one, how much more could you have gotten for that time? It's just a return on your time, right?
Exactly. I think it's interesting you say that, because a lot of guys will obsess, let's look at the fitness athlete. They map out what they're going to eat, like to the T, granular macro counting. But when's the last time you went on like a data diet? Or when's the last time you were very selective about what you put in your ears or in front of your face? Like, you should be as selective with that material as you are the plate of carbs,
That's right.
You don't have so much time. Like, you need to ingest what's actually going to have an ROI,
That's right. That's why it's so hard to get out of the poor parts of town, because you're spending all your time with those people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why it's so hard to get out. That's also why you see the kid that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, even though he's a freaking idiot, he's always got money, because that's all he knows.
All he knows. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, so talk to me a little bit about, we talked about Car and Driver. You mentioned burn the boats to take the island. Expand on that for me a little bit.
Yeah, that was, I think, what we talked about a few minutes ago around our lack of a belief in a backup plan, like Plan B, and so it was one of those things that the island to me is your calling, is your purpose. And when I had my moment, the man in the mirror, and then when I started to really do the work and really I firmly believe the quality of a man's life is directly related to the quality of the questions he's willing to ask himself. And as I started asking myself the crazy deep questions, it started to unlock why I'm here. That was the island for me. And the only way to truly take the island, which is to step into my purpose, which is just help dudes be better dudes, period, I realized I have to burn every other source of income, any sort of distraction, anything, any energy that's not in alignment.
You had to finish some things.
Yeah.
Because if you finish it, it's the end.
Yeah. I'm going to continue to go back and process it with that frame now, because I've told this story several times. I've never had someone put that fine of a line on why I did or how I did it, or that's a very, I like that. I'm stuck on that right now.
I struggled with it when I was done with ball. I quit on my own terms. I had a job. I had a place to play the year that I was done. The year that I retired. I don't like using that word, because I think if somebody retires, they're financially I think if you have money, you're rich. If you have time, you're wealthy. That's kind of like the way I look at it that way. So when you retire, you're wealthy. Now you have time, you have enough, you're rich, so now you can enjoy the time, and now you're wealthy. I don't like saying I retired from baseball because I was in the hole when I got done. I made so little money doing it, but like I still had a lot of insecurities around the fact that I felt like I was a failure. And I was almost embarrassed to say that, like, I wasn't playing anymore, even though I chose not to. And the reason that I chose not to is because that was the first time I realized I actually didn't know how to set a goal. I always just wanted to play professional baseball. Caleb Joseph, who sat in that chair not too long ago, played 8 seasons in the big leagues. Well, his dream was he always wanted to play in the big leagues. My dream was I just wanted to play professional baseball, which is what I did. I wasn't good at setting goals. I didn't know how to hit a target, or I didn't know how to you can't hit a target you can't see.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't know how to set targets. If I had have been a more precise with my goal in my professional career, might have played a little further because I would have handled things differently. I would have had different conversations.
Well, that's even starting with the exit in mind, which I think a lot of guys fail to do. When you know your clear exit strategy or your clear target or destination, every decision you make now, like I'm so obsessed with if we go back to your point around filtering, like who you hang out with or where you choose to whatever. Like this is another one of my sentences that I'm just dropping a bunch of stuff that rhymes because it's how I roll. But this is my filter now. My values and vision drive every decision. And so if it's not in alignment with my core values or the vision I see for myself and where I'm heading, like I don't do it anymore. And like when you sit in our chairs, and I'm sure you get pitched a lot too, like the amount of FOMO that we could have if we didn't have that strong non-negotiable filter in place, like there's so many business opportunities that fall in our lap, and
absolutely,
guys that are crushing it, bro, and just park some money here and crypto this or whatever. And I've got several guys that have come to me with businesses that are like on the brink of closure, that if I step in, they're offering me like equity, like step in and help me fix this, and you can have X amount of points. And it's like, that doesn't align with, that's not where I'm going.
That's so important.
And it's not about money anymore for me. So it's like, you can't get me anymore with that old, like it used to be.
Yeah.
I read a line by this is early in my entrepreneur career. What's his name? Warren Buffett. The average millionaire has 7 sources of income, 7 income streams, right? You know what I did? I went and opened up 7 LLCs. And I cannabis and clothing line, and of course the law firm and the debt collection. We had a staffing agency which fed the debt collection company. Which, like, everything we did was just so I could have a cool sentence at a cocktail party. Like, yeah, I got stuff. What don't I do, bro? I do everything.
Right.
Like, I was that guy. Check the box for douchebag.
Income is the outcome, not the objective, right?
Yeah, I love
that's
that.
right.
Yeah,
that's right. And when you find that, that's where you find your happiness. That's where you find your fulfillment. It's awesome. New levels, new devils. I'm still stuck on that one. I love that one because it's like more money, more problems. You know what I'm saying? Marcus Whitney taught me that one time when he's always been a couple years ahead of me in the professional journey, I feel like. And he's like, bro, like don't mistake my chapter 20 for like your chapter 10, right? Chapter 20 comes with a whole new set of problems. Yep. They don't go away.
And the thing is, are you ready for it?
That's right.
That's like the premise of our movement is like every guy want his chapter 20 or your chapter 10, but they're not ready. They don't even know what's required. Like the communication skills, the leadership skills, the mental pressure of like cutting a couple extra zeros on payroll this month. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what that takes? Do you know what kind of person that takes? That's why everything is always ask who, not how. Like, who is Nick Hyder? That's how you figure out how to build what he built. You don't ask how he did it from a framework standpoint, from A to B. Like, it's who is this guy at his core?
That's good.
Because that's who built the thing. And that's where I think a lot of guys are missing the mark big time. And that's my frustration with a lot of these masterminds. They're up there on waving from stage, 7-figure this, 8-figure crush it, bro, blueprint, marketing strategy 101. Get out of here, man. You know damn well the 2,000 dudes in the audience that you just hawked that whatever A to B list are all coming back in 3 months to get another shower of motivation because it didn't work. And then they're trying to figure out why they're not the guy, but you're the guy. Because they're looking to-do list. It's a to-be list. Like, who do I have to become to actually get what I say I want? You know what I mean?
I love that. I learned so much, and I talk about it a lot on here. People might be getting tired of hearing it. I learned more from when... So, like, I'm not talking about the GPSs that you had the suction cup on your windshield and plugged in the cigarette lighter, and mine would always fall off and was bouncing all around the dashboard all the time. You know what I mean? It was a running joke with my grandfather. Every time he'd turn left, that sucker went, it was flying across the dashboard, and he'd cuss it a little bit, and we'd laugh, and it was a good time.
The fact that you had a grandfather that used GPS, because I'm thinking Thomas guys.
Oh, dude, you remember?
I'm thinking like OG, like, remember, it went from Thomas guys to MapQuest.
Yeah.
To the lick 'em stick 'em GPS. You know what I mean? To
what was the let's start with an O. What was the name of those things that I can't remember? I'll think of it in a minute. But when they became available on your phone,
yeah,
and we started really getting into running my own business, you can work through things. But when all of a sudden you're helping somebody else run theirs or teaching them how to run theirs, all of a sudden you realize all the holes in your framework and how that there's certain things that are you just do, but you didn't realize you did them.
Yep.
And I learned so much from the GPS one day because it was like the GPS only works if you type a very specific destination on the end in mind, right? You start with the end in mind. But if you just typed in Nashville, Tennessee in the GPS, who knows where you're going to end up? You know what I'm saying? There's a 30 or 40 mile radius that you might end up anywhere in there, Nashville, Tennessee, or even larger. And the cool part about the GPS is life's going to happen and throw stuff in your way, and it'll tell you well, now you're going to arrive at this time, or if you get off course, it'll say, hey, change your directions and so on and so forth. They'll say, hey, you're coming upon upcoming traffic. There's 2 or 3 routes you can go that are different, all without losing vision of the destination that you're going to in the end. Yeah. And that's the hardest part that I see with young entrepreneurs is they get distracted with life and they forget everything you have to do, every ounce of your being has to go to whatever it is you just said you wanted to go to. Yep. Right? If I want to be the world's greatest dad, I think you can have it all. I think you can coach baseball teams, you can run multiple businesses, you can be a great husband, you can be a great friend. I think you can do all those things if you actually budget your time. And when you set a budget on your time, a time budget, it means you're investing your time, and if you invest money, you're gonna gauge it based on a return. Yep. But we don't treat time the same way, and it's funny because time's more valuable
much more
than
valuable,
money,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So I learned more from the GPS and teaching people in the beginning how to launch insurance agencies, single-person insurance agencies. From the GPS, that was my greatest tool, because every time we'd have a bump in the road or something like that, I'm like, well, what would the GPS be doing right now? And that was, for me, it was something that simple, right? What were some things? What were some tools that taught you along the way? For me, the GPS was.
I have a pretty interesting thing we do with GPS out of the gate. If I stay in that vein of form,
that's cool.
Yeah. One of my initial talks we ever did for the program in remapping and rewiring these guys is we remap their GPS. And so we call it good to great, right? Good is the enemy of great. And everyone knows that, at least in our world, right?
That's right.
And then we take them from profit to purpose, meaning and that's the whole 3% rule. When you attach a purpose to your thing and your KPIs aren't just how much money did we make this year? What's our revenue in Q2? No. How many kids did we save?
That's right.
It's $4,800 to rehab a girl after she's been brought back from sex trafficking. So take your quarter KPI, divide it by 4,800, and say we're going to save 16 kids by the end of Q2. Watch what kind of rally you get behind that mission.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Versus just hanging up an Excel sheet that says we did 12 mil in rev.
That's right.
So profit focus to purpose focus. And then the biggest one, I think, this is what I want every man to experience. This is what I've been on the journey, is from success to significant. And so good to great, profit to purpose, success to significance. And to me, we're on we're hit the reset button financially, obviously, and I've probably made less money in the last 2 years than I've ever made in my life. I haven't made less than 7 figures since I was 20 years old, but I fly out of bed, brother.
That's right.
It doesn't even make sense. You will never ever win an argument with me that says I can add an extra zero to your bank account, or you could just go help one dude and change his life. I'll take that.
It's on God's time.
Yeah. Oh man, it's the craziest thing when you surrender. Everything is coming. Even right now, this is all coming through me, man. This whole movement.
That's right. None
of those things are my things anyway. I've been trying to talk to my wife about possibly selling this house, and let's scale down a little bit and really scale this thing out, because we're moving a little slow because we got overhead. And we're on a reset, and I'm these are just things.
That's right.
I hate to go this deep with it, but it's almost been like a Schindler's List moment. If you remember that movie, at the end, he's like, I could have saved a couple more if I would have hawked the watch or got rid of the suit, or it's how many more people can we impact if we, and I like nice things. We have nice things, but sometimes I wrestle with that hard internally. It's do I need another thing? No, I need to go help some more people, man. And the money, like you said, it'll come. I don't
Yeah.
I know what's happening for me. I know what it looks like 10 years from now.
Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a balancing act, because the things are how man made money.
Yeah.
God didn't make money. Man made money. You can't take the money with you. But we're working with men, or people. And so people look at that's at least they're auditing their sources, that they'll say, well, that guy's, he lives in a nice house, drives a nice car, so he's done something right.
And that's all it is. That's about the argument I make with the wife. I was like, look, we're I hate to say play the game, but you're right. For someone to pay me what I charge, we got to have the big house and the cars and the things and stuff. But we've definitely, trust me, I used to collect cars, man. Like I was bad. And so now it's like I have a truck now. It's the first time I bought a truck actually since I came to Nashville. I got a little Raptor and I'm cool with that. And my kids all got cool cars. My wife's got what she wants, but I used to have multi-vehicles, and now it's like never again. Like to your point, as long as people understand that I know what I'm talking about, I got enough money to do what I need to do. But I've created more wealth for other people in the last 3 years than I have for myself. But that's a massive W for me.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Huge.
Absolutely. Because you're leaving the place better than you found it.
That's it.
Well, what's next for the program? I know that we're talking about I'd say we're in the pre-production phase on podcasts and a whole bunch of digital content and other events and books and everything else. What's next on the agenda for the program? Like, how does Nick dream about the program?
Yeah, so I've been always obsessed with the franchise model because it did well for me with collections, but I really just feel it's the quickest way for me to grow the mission and the movement.
You're giving people a hand up, not a hand out.
Yeah. And so like we have an event in St. George that'll be the first. It's going to be a Program Utah, and it's really, we have a lot of LDS that love us, and it'll be the first time we bring the wives into the fold, like bring women to the movement to a degree. And so I'm really excited about that. But what it really is kind of like proof of concept around can we start to put, because I've got interested, people that have been with me for a year and a half that are very qualified to lead this movement in different states. And so like the vision for me in the next couple of years is to have programs, like either brick and mortars, but at least like an event centric. So like one of the, I think, downsides to some of these things, these masterminds are doing, and us included, is we start with these very heavy events and then it's a lot of Zooms and stuff, which is, the guys get crazy results, but you can't touch the face-to-face events, which is why we let them come back to whatever event. Just let me know. Come on down. All that to say, I got guys scattered all over the U.S., and so I would love to have these little hubs of people where you can do like even just monthly meetups, whether it's golf or a gym session or whatever. Nothing that costs money. Just you got to get in front of people, man. So, you're personally forcing me to go digital. We've yet to spend $1 marketing, which I used to be proud of, but now it's embarrassing to say. We have these little pockets across the U.S. where I helped one guy crush it, and then someone says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Call Nick." So we've done okay with word of mouth, but the goal would be just to grow the mission, kind of horizontal, and if the money comes, great. If not, cool too. Like let's just help people be better people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's honestly, I mean, you guys did it right. If you build organic first, like that's the most powerful. That's the longest. Those are the best customers, the best people in your network. Those are your best supporters. And that's how Rhea and I did it in the insurance space. And honestly, they burned us alive because we were different. We didn't just buy data, buy lead, and call. We did that too. So I had to learn it so I could teach it.
Yeah.
Because that is a great way to get an agent off the ground that doesn't have a big network. You know what I mean? That has something to prove to a lot of folks. But if you don't diversify, once you start to build a book of business, and you're not collecting those testimonials and those stories and using that to create incoming calls, incoming traffic, referrals, and all that kind of stuff. That's the thing. So I think the reason that you guys have to go digital and why I want to see you guys do it so bad is just because people are spending 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day looking at that little teeny screen that they can hold in their hand, and they're trusting the people on it. And they need to, and that's why you need to be there.
Yeah.
Right. That's period. For me, that's it. At the end of the day, we used to tracking data, tracking. We have CRMs for emails, and we track open rates, and we even in podcasts, how long do they listen to the episode before they tune out? You study all these analytics on everything else. Why not study them? Digital content's a great way to figure out what's working, what's not. And to give people something to share. They want to say, look what I did, and look how powerful this was to me. And if you give them the tool, now
they become a walking billboard for you.
That's right. They can use that tool. Yeah. It's so powerful. So the digital content space for me was Brad Lee was we made a great living off static images. And he was just like, you need to do video. And I was like, I don't know, man. Static images are working good. They're easy. And he was like,
people want to be entertained, bro.
That's right. And he just said, well, how many more people would you be helping if you had videos? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, you want to find out?
That's it. That's all you needed to hear.
That's it. And I was like, damn it. Yeah, he got me. Like, dang, he's good, So he helped me so much. Well, dude, the program is fantastic. You got a great website. That's reprogram.ai. Check out Nick on Instagram. That's the Nick Alfano. I mean, dude, you're on stages. I mean, dude, you've spent so much time out in the face-to-face world and at these events and everything else. It's not going to be hard for your digital is going to catch up real fast to everything you're doing. Just because I mean,
so.
you've been on some of the biggest stages, dude. Like how many podcasts have you done in just like last year and a half, 2 years? It's been a ton.
Yeah, this year we've so I challenged my girls to get me on 10 stages and 20 podcasts, and we're in June, right? And I've done 27 podcasts. So
wow.
This year's been cool. I need, like, to your point, I need to start my own though. But I'm hoping, to your point, I have had people say, like, I tried to explain who you are, and then, you know, sometimes people want to go down a rabbit hole, but you don't really exist on social. So it's like, it is time. But I had a story around it forever. Like, my daughter manages my social. I just don't. I literally, like, loathe social media, but I get it. I understand it's necessary for growth.
I want my son to manage mine when he gets a little bit older because, like, man, like, look, it's hard. It's, you know, I was always just told, dude, you know, multiple, right at the time it was 2 videos a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you know, 5 to 10 stories. Like, and if you do that every day, in 3 to 4 years, you'll have a strong brand and you'll have traction and it'll work. Wow. Right. And I'm like, man, like, you know, that's so sure enough, you know, we're approaching the 4-year mark here real soon. And like, you see the growth and you see the reach. And I mean, when you can effectively touch hundreds of thousands or millions of people every 30 days, that's extremely powerful. It's also a great responsibility, but it's extremely powerful.
And that's the story that hammers hard from, and I need to hear it more from guys like you, is like, if I really believe in this and I want to grow this movement and get these conversations and these concepts and these frameworks, if I want to help more dudes, I gotta be louder. And you know, how loud can I be, you know, with a speaking gig every month or two? Like, it's just.
Well, think about it this way: how powerful of a professional life will your daughter have, because she's learning this with you right now. So she's going to leave with the knowledge that very few people have. It's a very in high demand skill set when you know how to market digital content, because there's micro content, there's short form, there's long form, there's really long form. Like, there's so it's never ending, and it's only growing. Yeah. It's compounding at this point.
And the old dudes like you and me don't want to learn it, so we just hire someone to come in here and collapse time, because
that's right.
What my daughter does in 20 minutes, I'm like no. And for her, it's just she can do it in her sleep. You know what I mean?
Well, that's cool. And you know, and if she's doing your stuff, that means she's going to be working with some of us in the future, right? And that's going to be a lot of fun too. Yeah. So she knows stuff that we don't know. We learn from everybody. Yeah, we learn from everybody, just like you learn from every single person that walks into your events.
It's funny because when I'm coaching these guys, and like, essentially we're just, everybody around you is a reflection of you. Like, we're all made in His image anyway. And so, like, sometimes you see things in people that you really need to see in yourself. And so I'll have this conversation sometimes with my guys. I'm like, this is the most selfish, like, movement of all time, because this benefits me. And then let's just talk accountability. Like, I have to show up every day, like, next level, like, crushing it across faith, family, fitness, and finance, because I'm leading these people. That's right. So I'm forced to show up, like, on the craziest level of accountability. But yeah, sometimes I'll be like even like, let's say I'm even scolding one of my guys, and in my head I'm like, man, this is a sounding board for yourself, bro. You know what I mean? So it's extremely powerful to help other people. Like, you always win. There's just no way around it. Just add value to a human being before you put your head on the pillow. The rest will take care of itself. You know what I mean?
Well, folks, we're hanging with Nick Alfano, the founder at the program, and that's reprogram.ai on the web, and on Instagram at the Nick Alfano. Nick, is there any, like, for any of the folks that want to get some feedback from you, that want to talk to you, contact you, or enroll in your stuff, best places to do that, and any final words for everybody today?
I mean, to access me, I'm horrible at this part. Just jump on the site. One thing I do want to offer to all your guests, because it's you, and I love everything you're doing, is like, my calendar is easy. It's timewithnick.net, and they can book any of the 1-hour sessions, and they will get me. They won't get an AI or even one of my staff. Like, so I would love to, if someone just wants to solve a problem across any of the 4 domains, or just any problem, like, we can get a lot done in an hour. I chop it up. I send you the recording. I send you the action items if we assign any. Like, you will get tremendous value, and I charge a pretty penny for that. And so I would love to just anybody who's listening, if they want it for free, just as long as they say they came from your podcast, like, let's dance.
That's awesome, folks. That's going to be in the show notes. So that's timewithnick.net.
Yes, sir.
To get basically a consult with them. That's powerful. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that for all of our folks. And if they want to be a part of the program, so they just go to the website, check it out.
Yeah, if they jump on the site, it should have usually it's got the most recent event. So we do have an event coming up July 6th to 8th. I'm not sure when this will air, so I don't know how relevant that is. I might have to cut that out. But we've got events they'll see them all. They'll see events every couple months, and
Got an event July 6th through the 8th.
that's our big 3-day one.
Excellent.
That's with the pretty waterfalls. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about this, the cool thing about podcasting is no networks tell me what I got to do or whatever. So, like, we got a July 6th to 8th deadline to hit here, so I bet we hit that one. What do you think, Dr. J? I think we can do that, baby.
I just know this is a very popular podcast, and you guys were backed up 3 months, so I didn't want to like cut the line, but
Dude, that's the cool thing is I get to decide who goes where in the line. That's the cool part because it's best for the listeners out there. It's for them. Everything's for them, right?
100%.
So that's great. When Rich Redmond had a book that came out, I believe it was on May 15th, and so we moved his episode around so we could play with that and promote that, right? So July 6th through 8th, you got an event coming in. They can go to reprogram.ai to get registered for that and get all the information they want, right?
Yes, sir.
Dude, Nick, thanks so much for hanging with me, man. This has been really cool. Your story's outstanding.
Yo, thanks for having me. I love sharing it and like what you guys are building and have built. Yeah, I'm excited to work with you because I don't know anything about digital, and clearly, like, the audience can't see what I'm saying, but you guys have mastered it. Like, this place is gorgeous. So.
Well, we sure appreciate it, man. This is a killer episode. Again, your story, the vulnerability it's attractive. It really is, and that's something that was very hard for me for a long time. Yeah, pride gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we've been hanging out with Nick Alfano, coach, speaker, serial entrepreneur, former attorney, and founder at the program on the web, reprogram.ai, on Instagram at the Nick Alfano. Folks, once again, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.